Hey everybody, my name is Gary, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the guys that do these YouTube comparison videos. They try to call them Mythbusters and type videos, things of that nature. And one of the things I find, as somebody that has a scientific background, is that when they're trying to prove or disprove what somebody else has claimed, is that they shortcut what they're trying to do and try to say, oh, well, the result, I didn't get the same result, therefore the theory that this other person is claiming is total bullshit. Well, first of all, when you're trying to validate, which is what we refer to it as, or prove or disprove, a theorem, is what you need to do is exactly what the other person did. So take, for instance, there's two videos online that had to do with cleaning catalytic converters. One was by Scotty Kilmer, and the other one was by Eric the Car Guy. Now, let me just say right off the bat, I'm not a mechanic. Most of the stuff I watch is, if I really want to do it myself, I will, but I pretty much have the means to send it to a mechanic, and I do have a guy I trust. However, I'm talking about validating, proving, disproving a theory. So, starting with Scotty's video, it was talking about using lacquer thinner to clean a catalytic converter. And Scotty said that you needed to pour 1 gallon of lacquer thinner into your gas tank, if you have a half a tank of gas, which for most cars may be somewhere between 8 to 10 gallons, and of gasoline. So it's like a 1 to 10 ratio, 1.5 to 1.5 to 10 ratio. So in this particular instant, Scotty said throw a gallon of the lacquer thinner down your gas tank, drive the car for 150 miles, and you should notice a cleaner catalytic converter. Eric the Car Guy was doing something, I believe it was on his older Subaru, and he actually only put in a pint, and obviously he didn't get the same result. Now, Scotty did not get into testing the heat before and after, so Scotty's video was lacking some things. Eric did go above and beyond as to get the temperature front and back, but again, he only used a pint versus 1 gallon. So in order to prove or disprove, you need to do the test exactly as the person's making the claim in order to validate it. And I see this little shiny thing on my nose, makes it look like I got a big bolt in my nose, but I don't, trust me. Alright, so I'm wearing a John Wick shirt that says, be kind to animals or I'll kill you. I'm an animal lover. Anyways, going back. So the second part of it was in Scotty's video. He said that you could fill a bucket with laundry detergent, remove the catalytic converter, and let it soak overnight. And that once you soak it overnight, you're supposed to rinse it and dry it out. Eric took off the catalytic converter, put it in a trash can type bucket with Dawn dishwashing liquid. Now, Scotty used laundry detergent. So, is there a big difference between soap and laundry detergent? Dawn cuts grease out of the way, and catalytic converters are basically just carbon buildup. However, but here's the problem. He only let it soak for 20 minutes. He took 20, maybe a half hour tops. He took it out, reconnected it to the car without letting it dry out for a half a day or a day, or air drying it out with an air hose. And he ended up, showing that the temperature in front of the catalytic converter was much higher than the back. And that really didn't prove or disprove Scotty's theory, but he tended to claim that it didn't work. So he ended up doing a third video about using sodium hydroxide. Now, I work in biopharmaceuticals. We use sodium hydroxide to clean pharmaceutical processing equipment. However, would I use any of these methods to clean a catalytic converter? No, because I can afford to replace a catalytic converter. So to me, all that shit of crawling under the car, trying to fight with rusted bolts, because I live in a salt belt state, Pennsylvania, it's just not really worth it to me. to go through all of that. It's better to go online, go to Rock Auto, buy the catalytic converter, take it to my mechanic guy, pay him the $100 hour, whatever he's going to charge me for an hour and 20 minutes labor to change it out and move on with my day. My car's there. I can pretty much wait for it, play with my phone, drink coffee out of his Keurig, and move the fuck on. But my big thing to complain about is when you're going to prove or disprove anybody's other video, is you must lay down the scientific groundwork that it's exactly the same. So if they say to use a gallon of lacquer thinner, you use a gallon of lacquer thinner. If they tell you should have a half a tank of gas, you should have a half a tank. Eric had closer to 3/4. The laundry detergent thing, Scotty said laundry detergent, he used Dawn dishwashing liquid, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But Scotty said overnight, Eric only did it for 20-30 minutes. I did not see where Scotty mentioned using sodium hydroxide. And I personally would not recommend it, but that's just me. Again, I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not claiming to be a mechanic. I'm talking about validating, a theorem. So there's a few other videos on YouTube that are like this. I've seen guys testing Harbor Freight impact wrenches versus Snap-on. I've seen guys testing JB Weld on lawnmowers, and the thing is that it's very hard that you're ever going to get two identical compressors. I mean, that you could buy two identical compressors from the same store, everything about them, the labels, everything is exactly the same, but will they be identical? Not really. There's no such thing as like for like in the validation world. So when you're doing these comparisons, it's very hard to, you're always going to get the perfect results. But for instance, when you're trying JB Weld as to holding a piston assembly together, or I forget what the exact one was, I think he was trying to hold the cylinder head over the piston. The guy got two push lawnmowers. Problem was, one lawnmower was much newer, and it was a Honda, and I think the other one was older and a Turo. And he said, see, it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Don't let anybody believe you. And my biggest problem was, well, first of all, the lawnmower that the guy set it for it, he used a Husqvarna, I believe it was. And this guy's using a Honda and a Toro. And I said, if you want to compare engines on which one's the better engine and hold the JB Weld longer, you got to use two of at least the exact same lawnmower models. Same thing would go with the air compressors and testing the wrenches. There was a guy, and what he did was he put a splitter on the air line. Well, of course you're not going to get the same results, because you put a piece where the air is going to branch off to one wrench, even though it's got a more direct shot to the other. So now you've introduced a piece where it's going to come out here and go up. And so there's going to be, there's more resistance. So it's not going to get the delivery it needs. It's, air and water are the same. They're going to take the path of least resistance, so it's going to go straight. So when he's testing these guns, even though he's switched them around, to put one on the split end versus the other one not on the split end, I don't consider that test accurate, correct, or scientific in any way, because he should have never introduced the splitter. In order to properly test these, you need to put them on equal air compressor systems with as close to the same type of hose, the same type of brass fitting connector, and run them simultaneously. That's how you would validate or prove or disprove your theory. So one of the things I always tell people is, if you're going to do a comparison video, you can compare a Yamaha to a Honda motorcycle all day long. That's great. But if you're going to compare, we'll say aftermarket cold air intakes on a car. So if you're going to compare an engine cold air intake to K&N cold air intake, make sure that you have the exact same cars. So if you're going to test them on Camaros, test them on Camaros. You're going to test them on Mustangs, test them on Mustangs, etc., etc. But make sure that the cars are pretty much equal. The best thing to do would probably be to pull two cars off the dealer lot. But I can tell you without a doubt, I bought 2 Ford Explorers back to back in each other in 2015. Literally bought them a week apart. Bought a white one and I bought a black one for my wife, who's now my ex-wife, and one for myself. And hers, the black one, was actually faster than my white one. And when I had went to the dealer and complained, I said, look, you put these 2 cars against each other, and I said, and the black one walks all over the white one, and it shouldn't be. But here was the issue I later found out, because we started doing research, and the guy couldn't figure out. We took out both cars, we both gunned it, mashed it to the carpet, and literally the black one walked away, and the mechanic's sitting there going, what? I don't get it. Found something interesting out, is that the black one came from a non-California emission state. In fact, when I looked at the window stickers, and this was before I let him get into anything, I was trying to make sure the cars were equal. They had the same motor, everything. They had the same options. Everything was the same price tag, everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I see one extra line on the white one, and it said California emissions. The other one didn't say California emissions. And it turns out it was a dealer trade from a southern state. Now, they trailered it up, so it didn't have, I think the mileage difference was, mine had 43 miles at delivery, hers had 36. But in terms of driving habits, we're both ex-New Yorkers, upper Northeast. I was born in southeastern Connecticut, very close to New York City. So we both drive like lunatics. Both always pedal to the floor, everything. So it wasn't the fact of one car learning quicker than the other, as we literally found out that the emission systems between the both cars were different. One being a California approved emissions, one not being a California emissions. And literally, before I got rid of them, we took them to a dyno shop and had them dynoed, and the black one was actually 20 horsepower faster than the white one. Same exact car. The VIN numbers were, I think, a couple thousand units apart. Not much. If I remember correctly, it was more like 5,000 units. But some people say a couple's only 2, whatever. But 2 cars built exactly the same should perform exactly the same. But adding that piece in where one was made and built for a non-California emission state really changed the dynamic on what happened with the car. So are the carb catalytic converters more restrictive? Apparently they are. Or is it the tuning for that car that was coming to a California style emission state, which was Pennsylvania? So the white one was bought, and shipped to a Pennsylvania dealer, ordered by that dealer, whereas the black one was ordered by a dealer somewhere in the South, don't remember the exact state, and it was shipped to that dealer, then dealer traded to my dealer where I bought it for a Ford Explorer Sport. So little things like that explained a big difference in the gaps between the 2 cars. Same thing goes with any of these test methods that you see. If people are trying to prove or disprove a theory, you need to look at, are they doing the test parameters correctly as outlined by the person they're trying to prove or disprove? And are they using the exact same tools? So in this case, gallon of lacquer thinner, pint of lacquer thinner. 20 minutes in soaking in Dawn dish detergent, overnight in laundry detergent. Non-dried, air-dried. I said I won't get into the sodium hydroxide method because it's not me. But anyways, this is something to keep in mind when you're watching these videos. Would I ever do what Scotty did? No. To me, that's a whole waste of time. I keep the stuff I do limited to rotating tires, maybe doing brake jobs, clean a throttle body, blah, blah, blah. Am I going to change an engine? I did it one time. Never fucking do it again. I don't have the patience for that kind of stuff. I've already bust my knuckles up enough doing what I do with my day-to-day. Last thing I want to do is tear them up on a greasy engine. I love cars, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan. I've driven Mustangs, Camaros, everything you can imagine. I own 2 Chrysler 300s right now, which are my toys. But the purpose of this video was based on the science. And the science is what's important. It's whether you're going to be able to properly validate / prove, disprove somebody's method. If you're going to do that, make sure that you have the same exact parameters. Same type of equipment. So, in this case, lacquer thinner. Same type of detergent, Dawn versus laundry detergent. Same soak time. You know, if that person did it this way, go back to their video and make sure you're copycatting everything. And this way, then you can say, I did it. I can either prove it or disprove it. And technically, you can't really prove it or disprove it. Well, you can technically prove it, but disproving it is a lot harder, because anybody that's a true scientist, validation expert, can sit there and look at anything that you've possibly done and find a flaw in your work. So the best way to do is outline it using a standard operating procedure so that it's followed to the key by each person. So that's why I say using that person's original video, that would be considered the standard operating procedure to do that process. I'm a quality guy by nature. I work in biotech and pharmaceuticals as well as medical device. So, like, again, not a mechanic, but I'm talking about the proving or disproving of a theorem. And in this case, Eric failed in trying to prove or disprove Scotty because he didn't follow Scotty's parameters. Same thing with the lawnmower guy and the JB Weld. You know, if you come across these videos, great. I'll try to link them in my description below. But it's just something I had to comment on because it was kind of really grinding my nerves after watching 3 attempts by Eric. And you know, and each time I'm like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And so it was really hard for him to say, you know, he said, well, it didn't work. Well, you don't know that it didn't work because you didn't do it the way he told you to do it. So we don't know if it would have worked. You didn't do it right. Which goes to prove another thing to me as well. If you work with somebody, and especially with a mechanic, and I said this on Eric's channel, I would never let him work on my car, because if he couldn't follow the simple directions Scotty laid out, and I wouldn't probably let Scotty work on my car either, but if he couldn't follow Scotty's direction, how many corners is he cutting when he's supposed to be fixing something? So, you know, if the Chilton or Haynes manual says to do this, 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 and this, and he doesn't do it, well, you know, how many corners did he cut? Do you really want somebody like that working on your car? Me, no. I figure I paid, you know, over $50,000 for my latest Chrysler 300S with the Hemi, because I got it fully loaded. And that's my baby. I look at it as I bought a $50,000 car. I want it to be done right. My 05 300, which is, you know, 14 years old, it's got 127,000 miles. I'm still anal retentive about that because it looks as good as the day I got it off the showroom floor. So just some things to keep in mind, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and sorry it got a little drawn out. I know I repeat myself a little bit, but one of the biggest things I've always said, if you're going to prove or disprove somebody's video, make sure you do exactly what they did, right? And this way you will have close to the same guidelines and parameters, and then you can put your opinion down that says it's either worked, or based on me doing it, following so-and-so's instructions, it didn't work. And this way you know that you are putting forth your best scientific approach and attempt at recreating a result. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.